At the very same time that America refused to give the Negro any land, our government was giving away millions of acres of land in the West and the Midwest, which meant that it was willing to undergird its white peasants from Europe with an economic floor. But not only did they give the land, they built land-grant colleges with government money to teach them how to farm. Not only that, they provided county agents to further their expertise in farming. Not only that, they provided low interest rates in order that they could mechanize their farm. Not only that, today many of these people are receiving millions of dollars in federal subsidies not to farm, and they are the very people telling the black man that he ought to lift himself by his own bootstraps. This is what we are faced with, and this is a reality. Now, when we come to Washington in this campaign, we are coming to get our check.
What's up, ADOS and our allies? You know who it is,
I had an
family.
apprenticeship somewhere else in
Florida.
Florida,
What's
but
that?
didn't really
What's
go
that?
anywhere. Then I kind of put that out.
All right, somebody trying to compete with me over here in the YouTube space. What's up, Herb Saint? How you doing, cousin? John Kenneth Dixon, Debonair One, thank you for joining the live. And to all of you who have yet to chat, who you are, and where you're slinging bricks for the ADOS, welcome to the live family. You know who it is, Angela Nirvana, your hostess with the mostest on the Friends of ADOS TV channel, bringing you those ADOS hot topics and making the case for reparations, making the case for Democratic down ballot. And today, family, what's up, Lineage First? Thank you for joining the live. Today, I discovered a Van Jones video that I'm about to play for you in part. You can find the message in its entirety over in the YouTube space. But it really piqued my interest to learn that despite the popular vote, despite the Electoral College, constitutionally, Trump could still win this election. Let's take a listen. Stand by. Welcome to the live. Follow on in. Now, why does it want a buffer?
He just conceded to George W. Bush. Because that's what we do. That's just kind of how we do things around here. You don't fight in the extra innings until maybe 2020, when one major candidate is already saying he may not accept the results of the vote count. Curse you 2020. So what could happen instead? Instead of conceding, a losing candidate could launch a ferocious fight to grab power anyway, or to hold on to power anyway. In the courts, yes, but also in the state houses, electoral college, even in Congress. They could file, for instance, dozens of lawsuits attempting to block the counting of millions of mail-in ballots, saying they should all be thrown out, they're all fraudulent. Then they could demand that the states refuse to certify the election because of all this alleged fraud or interference from a foreign power, or the loser's party could send a rival slate of electors to the Electoral College or to Congress and say, no, we're the real electors, and create a whole situation with that. Any of this stuff could create such a mess in the Electoral College and the Congress that the whole matter just winds up in front of the House of Representatives for the first time since the 1800s. Now, here's where it gets totally crazy. If the presidential election winds up in the Congress and the House of Representatives, they don't have to pay any attention at all to the popular vote or the electoral vote. It's like the election never happened. And then it gets even crazier. The final tally in the House is taken not by delegate, but by delegation. In other words, individual congresspeople don't get to vote. It's done by states. Now, get your head wrapped around this. In 2020, the majority of Americans live in blue states, but there are more red states. So there's a possibility that the Republicans in the House of Representatives could just anoint their candidate to be president, even without the popular vote or a majority electoral college. That could happen. Now, some people would call that outcome a perfectly legal, perfectly constitutional coup against the very idea of majority rule in the United States. That is possible under our Constitution, and it could happen this year. So what can you do about it? Okay, now keep in mind, if the margin of the victory is so massive, truly massive, the losing candidate's political party is going to walk away and just let their leader go down. Nobody's going to risk a constitutional crisis to save somebody who is super unpopular. But if the race is close, all bets are off. And then the fight could continue long past election night. You could be, trying to deal impact, this whole other process you never heard of before. You're going to have to be, lobbying, protesting, speaking out, contacting lawmakers, a whole other process you've never done before. So landing in this completely unfamiliar scenario, what can you do? How are we supposed to act? What are we supposed to do in this situation? There's basically three things that matter. Number one, get informed. A number of progressive organizations are already working hard to warn Americans about this growing threat to our democracy. Some organizations you could look into and research for yourself: ChooseDemocracy.us, ElectionTaskForce.org, ProtectDemocracy.org, Mobilize.us, AllAmericans.org, CivicAlliance.com, and the Fight Back Table at demos.org. All these groups are working on this. Now, on the right, if that's your cup of tea, you could also check out the Heritage Foundation or the Government Accountability Institute. They're focused on voter fraud. But you got to get informed about it, no matter what side you're on. Also, number two, you got to get loud. You got to get loud. Situation like this, these days, everybody is a media channel. You are the media. So use your own voice. And when you do, my advice, speak to universal American values, not the partisan stuff, okay? Speak to the American values that every American should be down with, no matter what party they're in. The idea that every voter counts and that every vote should be counted, that's an American value, period. The notion that the majority should rule in America, that's an American value. The idea that an incumbent president should concede honorably and graciously and ensure a peaceful transfer of power rather than trying to use every trick in the book to hang on to power, that's an American value too. If you stick with those values, you're going to be heard by a lot more people and help bring the country together. And lastly, sorry folks, voting's not enough. You're going to have to get active. You're going to have to get involved. You could join and support with your money some existing organizations, powerful groups like the Leadership Conference on Civil Rights, the ACLU, NAACP, Legal Defense Fund, Indivisible, colorchange.org. These groups are going to be fighting in the courts, fighting in Congress to try to make sure that we have a fair outcome. Those groups could use your help and your donations. But if it gets to the point where you feel that you have to take it to the streets, that you're going to have to go outside and demonstrate and march and protest, please do it peacefully. This is not just philosophy or morality. A lot of studies have shown that it's the peaceful protests that are more successful at challenging these would-be dictators and reversing coup attempts. It's the peaceful ones. Why? Because when the protests turn violent, all that chaos and carnage actually chases away supporters. So rather than the demonstrations getting bigger and the protests getting bigger, they start to shrink. Then the government looks reasonable when it cracks down. So it's actually a lot better to follow the guidance of the late, great Gene Sharp. Now, he has written beautifully and well.
Oh, family. Is this why Trump has been this quiet? Because he is staging a coup of the election? That he can do so by right of the Constitution? This will start a civil war for sure. If Americans that voted. First of all, let's start with the fact that the race should have never been this close. The race should have never been this close. And that is an indication that the Democrats continue to get it wrong. They continue to get it wrong. They think that making a boogeyman of Trump, a racist of Trump, in office for 4 years, over being a racist like Biden in office for 47 years, a combined 65 years when you consider the racism assailed at ADOS out here in California when she was prosecutor and AG. A combined 65 years of racism is what America has put at the top of the ticket, because we're so stuck on party politics. We're so stuck on identity politics. You know, we're stuck here. Identity and respectability and covert race is still in charge of the country. Obama has admitted after the fact that he is more moderate Republican. And the same is true of Biden. I think he's more far right, given the heinous legislation waged against the ADOS. We have got to move beyond that, because no matter what, Trump, I think he still, last count was at 71 million votes. Why was this race even close during what I believe to be a pandemic and one stimulus and folks losing their homes and dying from COVID disproportionately? Why in the world was this race this close? It is because the Democrats think that they can run on Trump the boogeyman and win. And that is what has happened with the ADOS showing up to the polls. 85% of our electorate showed up to the polls to vote them in for fear of Trump. 4-year races in office, 65 years combined between Kamala and Joe, over demanding reparations and a Black agenda in exchange for our vote. The ADOS movement pushed as hard as we could to get everyone to the polls. But the challenge is other grassroots were saying vote Republican at the polls or don't show up. This is why we have to move as a block. It is imperative. You know, I had to write a response in Facebook to this very sentiment. Where do we go from here? And I shared that until we move as a block and decide that the issues that plague the ADOS due to institutional systemic racism are greater than any personality in office, then we're going to continue to get what we've got. Absolutely nothing. Every time we show up to the polls and vote blue no matter who, and vote lesser of two evil, and not weaponize that vote and socialize our suffering, we will forever be at George Floyd, 8 minutes and 46 seconds. That is what's going to come for the ADOS, because there's no real plans to do anything extreme when it comes to dismantling private prisons and qualified immunity. So we will be yet again the only ones suffering until we break this cycle and decide to deliver a Republican top and a Democratic Congress to protect the over 42% of ADOS who rely on government assistance by design of institutional systemic racism. I know my regular schmegglers are sick of hearing me play that drum, but we clearly have a lot of work to do to get the message out, because it got lost in translation. We now have more Republican seats in the House, and right now, until Atlanta's done with the count, the Republicans are running the Senate, and Mitch McConnell is still there. So when you deliver a Biden-Harris and a Republican Senate, you know, and more seats to the Republicans in Congress, I see two things here. I see America wanting to hide their racism. They want to tuck it away inside of Kamala, who looks like us, but she is East Indian Brahmin caste, which is the top of the food chain. She is white in India. Okay? We would be the Dalits, the untouchables in India. So they didn't put an ADOS woman as the VP of this country. That is who deserves it over someone like Kamala, who comes from privilege, who's in this country weaponizing ADOSness to get you to the polls to vote for her. Because that is what the Democrats do. They use other ADOS and Black immigrants to mask the failure of the ADOS, to keep us tethered to the bottom in the country our ancestors built with their lives. And until we get that that is what they're doing, to mask their covert racism while waging wars against us in the legislation, then we will forever be at George Floyd 846. It's not going to change for the ADOS. I was reading about a story today that I shared in my timeline of a beautiful young ADOS man, maybe around 17, screaming for his father as the cops were tasing him in what appeared to be his own home. I haven't vetted the story close enough to know what happened, but it is an outrage what is happening, and it's not new to Trump. Trump is the symptom of a very bad disease in America with 3 Ks called institutional systemic racism. And they have come for us since they drug us over here in chains. Since prior to that, we were enslaved here by the Spaniards. So until we're willing to lock government down, get beyond the party politics, get beyond the identity politics, get beyond the respectability politics, we're doomed as a people. And we've got to, and what I'm introducing to you is not new. I've shared with you on other videos that Dr. Charles Morris, pastor of Abyssinian Church, recommended the same in reverse because we were Republicans, because Teddy Roosevelt, after he got the vote, chose to dishonorably discharge 167 Buffalo soldiers, took away their pensions, denied them access to government jobs, denied them access to reenlistment, after they were wrongfully accused of murdering a second white man, that they were quarantined in their barracks for having been accused of murdering the first white man. And Dr. Charles Morris said, "You shot us when our guns were empty. You shot us when our guns were empty, and we're going to return the same by delivering a Republican Congress to protect the Black South and a Democratic top of the ticket." We're not making things up. It clearly hasn't worked. And I'm pushing for the next 4 years for us to really understand that if we don't play chess with that vote, as a wealthless group, we are finished. We have 70 million immigrants in this country, to ADOS 35 million. Okay? They're double us. And Biden and Harris plan to open up these borders. I've heard numbers ranging from 11 million to 22 million more. And I've already shared with you how we are 44% of the degreed here in California, 6% of the private sector, and 51% of the Hispanics. Now they're opening the borders. That's what's coming for ADOS. 6% of the private sector and $200 liquid. We've got unicorns like myself and many people in the movement, the ones that are really doing the heavy lifting. We have a large movement throughout the country, but I promise you there's probably only about 50 of us really working. Okay? If that many, that might be a stretch. And of those, we're talking educated doctors. We got folks in this movement, some powerhouses that are up with the ADOS movement like a second job. And what we need is for everyone to get involved and do their part all over the country, because we're on the right side of history. And I've got to push this breaking the back of the establishment. It's got to burn to the ground if ADOS is going to survive this. We have got the demand of Biden right now to give us those reparations in the trillions over multi-generations. And I want to share some great news with you about an amazing author who is a friend to ADOS, an ally to ADOS, The Color of Money, Black Banks and the Racial Wealth Gap by Mirza Baradaran. Mirza Baradaran. She's Iranian. And Antonio Moore from Tone Talks has interviewed her. You need to look that interview up. And Yvette Carnell from Breaking Brown did a book club read of this very book. And so I want to give you a little bit of hope by sharing what Biden did in order to get her in his administration. This is a friend to ADOS that's going to be within Biden's administration. So we're getting higher, closer to our dream. Let me read to you what happened today. Shout out to Mike Michelson, who shared this with me. He's leery and suspicious of it all, and I get his intrepidation to embracing this because we've had so many people be on our side and then betray us. But I'm hopeful. Let me get my glasses on. Okay, Cynthia Bailey Lee is with Mirza Baradaran. Could not be more excited to see ultra badass Mirza Baradaran named to Biden's Treasury Department transition team. What an outstanding pick for our nation on so many levels. Author of one of the most influential recent books on finance and fairness, The Color of Money, Black Banks and the Racial Wealth Gap. Clear and forceful moral voice, a Mormon feminist, I could do without that part, BYU alumna, living the American dream as a child of an Iranian refugee family, law professor at UC Irvine, somehow despite all of the above awesomeness, still down to earth, funny, relatable mom. This is a huge victory for the ADOS movement if it goes the way we anticipate, with her being a part of the Treasury for Biden's administration. So let's continue sending good vibes that direction, that she will sustain her position on reparations as she is displayed in the interviews with the ADOS movement. I want to give a shout out to my family in the live. Roland Smalls, thank you for joining the live, The First Purge. John Volcano, D-Money 10. For those of you whose names I can't see over in the live, thank you so much. Danny Dior 2325, thank you so much for joining the live. I want to play one more thing to comment on because it just needs to be commented on. Let me get into it. It's short, but it's essential to some things that are on my heart about some of the, what I believe, coonery that's going on personally. I don't know any other way or word to put it, but I just want to share, and I'm sure many of you have already heard Van Jones' Crocodile Tears, but I've got some comments about this, so let me play it. It's 2 minutes, and then we'll get on with our book club read.
Van, what are your thoughts? It's well, it's easier to be a parent this morning. It's easier to be a dad. It's easier to tell your kids character matters. It matters. Telling the truth matters. Being a good person matters. And it's easier for a whole lot of people. If you're Muslim in this country, you don't have to worry if the president doesn't want you here. If you're an immigrant, you don't have to worry if the president's going to be happy to have babies snatched away or send dreamers back for no reason. This is vindication for a lot of people who have really suffered. You know, the I can't breathe. You know, that wasn't just George Floyd. That was a lot of people that felt they couldn't breathe. Every day you're waking up and you're getting these tweets and you just don't know. And you're going to the store and people who have been afraid to show their racism are getting nastier and nastier to you. And you're worried about your kids and you're worried about your sister. And can she just go to Walmart and get back into her car without somebody saying something to her? And you spent so much of your life energy just trying to hold it together. And this is a big deal for us just to be able to get some peace and have a chance for a reset. And the character of the country matters. And being a good man matters. I just want my sons to look at this. Look at this. You know, it's easy to do it the cheap way and get away with stuff, but it comes back around. It comes back around. And this is a good day for this country. I'm sorry for the people who lost. For them, it's not a good day. But for a whole lot of people, it's a good day.
Okay, I don't want to make a mockery of what he seems to be sincerely feeling, but this kind of reminds me of John Lewis and his Crocodile Tears. I mean, he went into a whole full-blown tirade over the illegals at the border and the kids being separated from their families, when in fact it was Obama that built those cages that those kids were in. That happened under Obama's watch. Obama deported more of them than Trump. Not defending Trump. I'm not a Trump supporter. When I speak on the Republican top and a Democratic down ballot, it's a strategy for what I believe is a wealthless group based on the data. So it's not that I would have been in support of Trump. I voted Green Party top of the ticket. I was hopeful that there were more of us that were going to join that protest vote so that we could have just had clear consciences and make a way for Trump to get it. But no, 85% of the electorate decided they knew better than the ADOS movement, who's been studying politics and watching the numbers. But I digress. Obama dropped so many bombs during his tenure, more than any of the presidents. He ran out. The Muslim people had drones dropped on them. Americans died from those drones that were dropped on them. That was Obama. I didn't hear any mention of how a large percentage of our men are in jail for nonviolent offenses. Joe Biden is the author of the 94 crime bill that Clinton made law. I didn't hear any mention of that as you're crying that we're better off with Biden and Harris running the country. Joe Biden made crack. There's a sentencing disparity because crack was dealt with in the courts more harshly than powder. No mention of Hunter Biden being a crackhead, cocaine addict who was able, right, to clean up his life once he got all the help he needed. You know, akin to the white kids of today and their opioid addictions. How much therapy they get. Our people got jail, where most of the most inhumane acts and violations to their humanity are happening. Those men are never the same. But they got stiffer penalties and sentences for crack, which, oh, by the way, was Nixon's war on drugs in our communities. No mention of that in his crocodile tears. No mention of the fact that these nonviolent offenders are never right in the head. When they get out, a lot of times why they are repeat offenders is because they can't get jobs. They can't vote. Their whole dignity and humanity is stripped from them because of the very people he's celebrating, like the second coming of Christ. I didn't hear any of that in his crocodile tears. Okay? I do feel for the immigrants, but I'm all cried out over ADOS. Like I was saying, Hunter was able to clean up his life akin to the white kids and adults who are strung out on opioids. All kinds of government money and programs are being poured into their rehabilitation, while our men got jail. I didn't hear any tears when it came to our brothers still on lockdown for peddling weed, while the states turn a profit, while the white folks build and own the weed shops in our communities that they profit from, that the felons who are supposed to have access to that don't have access to that. No tears that they're still on lockdown while the states are legalizing weed all over the country. And now that Kamala and Biden are in there, I'm sure they're going to make it a federal mandate. I don't hear any crocodile tears for George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, Elijah McClain. Yeah. When you're ADOS, you can be executed by civilians and race soldiers alike, whether you're jogging, watching the football game from your home, sleeping with your boo. No tears. I didn't hear any mention of any of those things. I could go on and on and on. And he's acting as if being afraid to be ADOS in this country is just new with Trump. Like we got to George Floyd 846 in 4 years. And now Biden and Kamala are here to save the day. I didn't hear John Lewis cry about it. I don't hear Clyburn crying about it. Van Jones, who knows, he's a journalist. I don't hear anything in his tears about it. I don't hear any tears for our children being set up for preschool to prison pipeline, to give bodies to the new slavery in the private prison industrial complex. Not distribute the public dollars fairly. No. No tears for the fact that we're about to lose more children to the system because of this pandemic. And now they're home having to take care of the children while their parents struggle to keep a roof over their heads to prevent from becoming homeless. Someone told me that 4 homeless people are dying on Skid Row every day. Downtown LA is a hot mess while they continue to build the high rises for the rich immigrants and the rich white folks. While our people are 90% on that Skid Row, we're the ones dying down there. Don't hear any tears for that, for these kids that are now home having to take care of the children while their parents try to eke out a living while they're sleeping in their cars, homeless, people losing their homes. I don't hear any tears for how our people are dying disproportionately from COVID due to lack of health care. Can't afford Obamacare. Can't afford it. Not when you're jobless. Not when your wages are suppressed, because immigration is where you're pivoting to replace the Black vote. We see you. We see you. We know what you're up to. No tears in his huge monologue. For those of us who are part of the over 60 million who have lost their jobs or whose wages are suppressed, while our children raise themselves, we've got mental health issues because of all the gunfires between the race soldiers and the poor ADOS who have turned to a life of crime to survive. No tears for Chirac and places that are overwrought from Black on Black murder and crime, race soldier on Black murders. I didn't hear any tears for that. I didn't hear any tears for the fact that we are a wealthless group, that white folks are continuing to rob and pillage the storehouse while ADOS are wiped off of the monopoly board. White folks share 100 trillion household dollars to ADOS, which is 90% or less, maybe around 86% of Blacks in this country as ADOS share less than 700 billion since COVID. I didn't hear any tears for that. I didn't hear any tears for the fact that ADOS can't get loans for businesses in their own communities. So they have to be terrorized by the new white supremacists, the Asian and Hispanic immigrants, Arab. These are the people that own the businesses in our communities. But no loans, no small business loans going to the ADOS to own their own communities. So for me, this is a way for them to put on this Oscar award-winning performance to protect their butter biscuits at the expense of the ADOS. And it's a tragic shame that this is the kind of Black that is in government and are part of the top 10% and not giving a damn about the rest. Well, the ADOS movement gives a damn about the rest of us, and we will not rest until the majority of us are the unicorns amongst us. To whom much is given, much is required. And you have to find a way to get involved and do your part. And we have to move as a block. We have to get on the same page and weaponize our vote and socialize our suffering. Adrian Taylor, thank you so much for joining the live. STRD Bertram, thank you for joining the live. I'm going to get into your comments after I do the reading. It's a lot, family. George Bush Sr. and Bill Clinton, you have got to understand that we have never had a president that liked us. But you'll be surprised that George Bush Sr. did do something that I was shocked to learn about for the ADOS after the Rodney King beating. It may surprise you. Carlos Robbins, thank you for joining the live, my love. And to all of you who have yet to type in the chat where you're slinging bricks, I thank you so much for joining the live. So I read to you because you have to understand your history or you're bound to repeat it. These are short chapters. I love to read and I love to learn. And I think that until we become more politically educated and understand how this works, we're never going to be free in this country. We have to not only know what's happening on the Democrat side, we must learn about the conservative side too. Because truthfully, you're amazing too, Danny Dior. Thank you so much for joining the live. Kofi Prempe ADOS. Thank you for joining the live. I love you guys, Black and Strong. I thank you for your time. I'm not going to belabor this. These are short reads, but important reads. Yeah. So I read to you because you must understand the plans that have been waged against you as ADOS, whose ancestors built all the wealth these Mickey Fickies eat from that table. We are the legs. We are the untouchables, and none of us are free until all of us are free. And so when I read to you, I do my own comments in between to show you the parallel that the more things stay the same, the more things stay the same. And you have to understand how you factor into that so you can make chess moves and not checker moves. We've been playing checkers for far too long, since FDR. Voting blue no matter who, lesser to evil, two-step shuffle to our own peril. To George Floyd 846. And we're still asleep. We're still sleepwalking to the polls. So that's why I read to you. So let's get into it. 1990 to 2019. We're now in the modern day of Margaret Kimberly's Prejudicial. If someone wants to type it in the chat, it is an incredible book, very small. We've gotten so far, we're down to this much left. We've read this much throughout the archives. So if you want to check it out, go back or just buy the book and read it with your children. Okay, because they need to understand and take this game over. You know, we need to get them politically involved right now. We can't wait till they're in their 50s like me, right? Like I just got engaged because of what happened under Obama. Absolutely nothing. They kept telling me to wait after voting him in the first term. Well, he needs 2 terms. Well, wait till he gets out. So when I saw we had nothing coming, prejudicial. Yes, you did, my love. You spelled it absolutely correct. And it's Margaret Kimberly with 2 E's, Kimberly, Ley. Black America and the Presidents. Okay, so I don't want our children, our millennials, our Gen Zs. My daughter knows so much politically because she ain't tuned into the show, but she hears it seeping into her subconscious. And the questions she asks are fire. So I recommend you own this book, go over it with your children so they will understand, because they're not teaching this in the schools. They didn't teach it in my schools. They're not teaching it in my daughter's school in 2020. We have to educate our children about our history. That's our job, okay? That's our job. And that means we have to learn it so we can teach it. So let me get in so we can get out of here hopefully by 7. The Black population, okay, this is modern day 1990 to 2019. What was going on at the time in 1990, the Black population in the United States is close to 40 million. We're down a few million in 2020. I think in total with immigrants, I want to say with 37 million. So we're losing. We were at 40 million in 1990. But I do know that millions of babies have been lost. I want to say 20 million of our babies have been lost to the eugenics of abortion. They put abortions, liquor stores, now the weed shops in our communities. They rob us of education. They deny us job opportunities. Down here, we lost on affirmative action. I'll try to find that article where the kids are extremely upset because it was a Black man, an ADOS man, Ward Connerly, that introduced Prop 209 to take away our affirmative action down here. And it decimated us in the schools and in our careers. That's why we're down 16% to 6% in Southern California because of an ADOS man's actions. I don't know what makes ADOS hate ADOS so much. And then this recent fight for our reparations, Ward Connerly was against it and spoke up and out and said his concern with giving us equal access in terms of our education and our careers is the white flight. We're $200 liquid by and large down here. And his concern to defeat the measure, to defeat Prop 16, is a concern over white flight, over the fact that we're 200 liquid to white folks 300,000 liquid. Anyway, so we're losing. We've lost 20 million to abortion, and we're losing here because we're not at 40 million anymore, and a percentage of the 37 million that remains, is immigrants sprinkled in there. I'll read you guys' chat after these short reads. In 2008, more than 65% of eligible Black voters turn out in the election that produces the first Black president of the United States. This time, 85% for the author of the 94 crime bill, segregationist Jim Crow Joe, and Cali's top cop, Skamala the Chameleon. 20% more of us showed up for them than Obama. 2013, Trayvon Martin's murder sparks the formation of the Black Lives Matter movement, which is a real suspicious movement to us right now, because it appears, I saw today Kamala saying, something about transgender minority women. Nothing for you, as she clutched her invisible skiwi bison pearls. But there's all this outpouring of concern for transgender, who amongst Black women is what percent? 0.000000000001. Yeah, she's concerned about transgender women. And that's kind of like what Black Lives Matter appears to be doing. I've got to get more information, but it feels to me like a Democratic front to raise money for the Dems while weaponizing our government-sanctioned executions. It makes you wonder if somehow the party is not complicit in executing us in order to wage it against us, to use it as a come-up. I don't put anything past the Democrats or the Republicans. They're both white supremacist, racist organizations, both parties. Okay? So miss me with all of, trying to paint the liberals to be less racist than Trump. That is a lie. Okay? In 2015, Black men still earn less than 75% of white men's hourly earnings. Now they can't even get work. They are the highest. Our Black men are the highest unemployed. And Trump got it right. You don't close off these borders and you allow immigration in here to overtake the country. It hurts Black men and women, but particularly it crushes our Black men, because only 16% of us are degreed. Well, that's what happens when you're a wealthless group. You can't really afford to go to college. And even when you can afford to go to college, you just have a mound of student loan debt, and it's hard for you to get a job in white corporate America with no affirmative action. Let me correct that. Affirmative action assisting white women first, immigrants second, and LGBTQIA third. It's not benefiting whom it was designed to make whole. And you're going to hear in tonight's presidents how they worked to get rid of quotas, which we desperately need. Yeah, you need the quotas because of what's happening right now. When you pass on a quota system, that means any minority of people of color can be hired over the ADOS whose ancestors built all the wealth they eat from. You need quotas so that a certain percentage of our group can have favor. Because they're not, I repeat, not hiring us, just from goodwill and the right thing to do. That's not how it works. They've allowed our affirmative action to be co-opted by everyone. And now our Black men and our black boomers, Gen Xers, and millennials and Gen Zs can't find work. Why? Because they've got the prisons. Our jails were overcrowded out here. And the governor told Kamala to let these nonviolent offenders free. She said, no, I need them to put out the white fires for $1 a day or $1 an hour. So when you look at the preschool to prison pipeline, this is what they're setting our kids up for. As you guys vote, 85% for whom we now have at the top of the ticket, both of whom have said they ain't doing nothing specific for ADOS, while rolling out the red carpet, trying to woo Latinx who voted predominantly for Trump. You're just voting for your own replacement. I think I read that Biden's about to let in 500,000 Indians East Brahmin Indians to come over here under H-1B visas for tech jobs over a preschool to STEM job for our children. I screamed on y'all the other night. I'm not going to scream, but I'm going to remind you every day that I have a window to come on Facebook and to do my shows about the betrayal to the ADOS. "2016 Donald Trump's election revives the openly racist political campaign over covert." Racism is racism. Nobody can tell me yet what Trump did more egregious in 4 years to the ADOS that Biden hadn't done for 47 years as a racist in office. No one can tell me that, other than he's mean and a racist. No one can tell me that. Many people will tell you, we just voted to get Trump out over demanding reparations and a black agenda in exchange for your vote. All the other groups get to make exchanges. But the minute we recommend a protest vote, ADOS gets dragged in social media, dragged in the corporate news network, corporates with 3 Ks, called Russian bots. Ice Cube gets dragged for working with the ADOS, speaking to both parties, because it's a bipartisan issue, reparations, and closing the egregious racial wealth gap. Y'all made no demands. But we voted to get Trump out, whom we did not place in office. George H.W. Bush, 1989 to 1993. George Herbert Walker Bush was the product of a Republican family. Though in comparison with those of more recent politicians, their views might now be seen as more liberal than they were at the time. His father, Connecticut Senator Prescott Bush, chaired his state's United Negro College Fund. Why are Republicans chairing the United Negro College Fund? Why are white folks, the CEO of Comcast, running the National Urban League? Jewish dollars running all throughout the NAACP. These organizations are supposed to be in place to help us, right? How does that work when they're funded by white dollars? Back to the text. When the younger Bush moved to Texas and went into the oil business, he initially stuck with the northern version of the Republican Party. In 1963, he told a reporter that he, quote, did not think the Republican Party should be a rallying place for segregationists. He established an organization of Black Republicans called the Republican Alliance. But Bush saw what had to be done to win a statewide election in Texas, and community went out the window when he ran for a Senate seat in 63 by supporting states' rights. Me speaking. This is why, despite the fact that Kamala and Biden said they aren't doing anything fundamentally for anybody for that matter, white folks, the progressives, didn't get Medicare for all either. This is why this is able to happen. This is why they ended up getting as many votes as they did while offering nothing to no one. Because they made Trump more of a racist, but they also did a lot of dog whistling. I remember Biden, well, first of all, Kamala started dog whistling when she threw her hat in the race and said upon entry that she wasn't doing anything specifically for the ADOS. She said that loud and clear and proud. So these are ways you dog whistle to moderate Republicans to earn their vote. I'm not doing anything specifically for her, the Blacks. No, she dragged out. Biden said nothing would fundamentally change. But see, This is how they got as many votes as they did, given that they weren't offering you any tangibles. No one. The only thing they ran on was Trump, the racist boogeyman. And that won because if it was Bernie, he'd have been defeated. These Republicans would have took it, trifecta. So Biden and Kamala were able to get that off because of all the dog whistles. I remember watching the debates and Donald Trump and Biden getting into a pissing match over who was more effective on law and order, who was going to be more of a law and order president. Biden doubled down by saying he was going to give $30 million more to the race soldiers to be in our communities, not give us education, not give us jobs, not give us homes, not give us businesses, but 30 million more to the race soldiers to come into our communities and crack our heads and murder us by government, execute us by government sanction. So when you think about it, the Republicans are still in charge. It's just the kind of Republican that allows them to hide behind the Democrat. They can hide their racism and cloak it in this kumbaya, we love everybody, heal the world kind of, love message. But they're racist, just as racist as the ones on the Republican side. Now they run the country. So even though Mitch, you see, the fact that they lost seats in the House and the fact that they are on the brink of losing the Senate, they may eke it out, but Mitch will still be in charge, is an indication of what the true sentiment of this country is. Had they been offering tangibles and something in exchange, they would not have lost the Congress. So this is going to be the excuse as it was under Obama. Now, Obama had a trifecta for the first 2 years and did nothing for us, and was able for the rest of the 6 years to say the Republicans won't do anything. Joe Biden will be able to do the same thing, and he will be fine with nothing getting done. But those of us that need something to get done won't be. The next 4 years are finished the way it's shaping up. Lot of Republicans in Democratic clothing. That's why you have to look for the most progressive you can find down the ticket. Hopefully we'll get it right in 2024. Or we're going to be here a while. We need all hands on deck with the protest vote. Back to the text. So as I was saying, this is akin to all of them. They can seem liberal in one breath, and then in the next, they're on, this segregationist nonsense to earn the vote and to win the White House. He called the 1964 Civil Rights Act trampling on the Constitution and warned that it would displace white workers, akin to how we're being displaced by immigrants. When Bush ran for the Republican presidential nomination in '88, he went full tilt to the darkest side of his party and its Southern Reagan Democrat strategy. Reagan's use of the welfare queen to elicit white voter support was child's play compared to the Bush campaign's use of a black criminal as a campaign surrogate in 1988. William J. Horton Jr. was convicted of murder in Massachusetts in '74 and was eligible for a prison furlough program. He was released on 9 occasions without incident, but in 1987 he fled to Virginia, where he assaulted a man and raped his fiancée. This news story was gold to campaign manager Lee Atwater, a South Carolinian and protege of former Dixiecrat presidential candidate Strom Thurmond. That's Joe Biden's boy. Many states had prison furlough programs, including California, and furloughed prisoners had committed 2 murders during Ronald Reagan's term as governor. Reagan apologized, yet he allowed the program to continue. But Reagan wasn't running for president in '88, and neither he nor any Republican suffered from the dreaded, quote, Negro Democratic mutual identification, close quote. The term was coined by Kevin Phillips, a Reagan campaign aide. The expression may be long and wordy, But the point is simple. If Democrats were identified as the Black People's Party, white Democrats will desert their party in droves. Having successfully used William Horton, who was never known by his name Willie except by the Bush administration to perpetuate racial stereotypes to get elected, Bush named Atwater as chairman of the Republican National Committee. There, Atwater continued his efforts to ensure white support by demonizing Black people and anything connected with them. The Bush administration, sorry guys, I lost my place. The Bush administration used the word quotas to stigmatize programs guaranteeing Black participation in government. It was a signal to his followers telling them to oppose or support legislation and policy. If Black people and Democrats supported anything, Bush was against it. Senator Edward Kennedy pushed a civil rights bill that would strengthen anti-discrimination laws that had been weakened by a 1989 Supreme Court case. Bush ultimately signed the Civil Rights Act of 91 after a veto of a previous version, which he dubbed a quota bill. That year, he also nominated Clarence Thomas to succeed the retiring Thurgood Marshall on the Supreme Court. Thomas was as conservative as Marshall was liberal, and as chair of the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, had worked hard to oppose everything that agency was meant to do. He rejected all class action lawsuits and went down the line with the administration in claiming that every civil rights remedy was laden with the dreaded quotas. I've got two thoughts. The first one is about the government painting Black people, who are only 13% of the country and far less on welfare, as the welfare kings and queens, when in fact, A, white folks benefit the most from welfare, and B, government is the biggest welfare king and queen. They like to capitalize their profits and socialize their losses. Look at the way they gave their top 1% billionaire buddies over $5 trillion and counting. This was before the pandemic. They were already propping up the stock market. So they like to gamble and get bailout from the government while the people eat dirt. The Thomas nomination was a political masterstroke, as was Obama. As is Kamala. The civil rights leadership was flummoxed, not knowing how to respond to a Black man whose politics would have garnered their opposition had he been white. The politics of the Thomas nomination made for strange bedfellows. Baltimore Sun reporter Arch Parsons, a personal friend of Thomas, made entreaties to NAACP President Benjamin Hooks to support Thomas and told White House staff about the conversations. When this intervention by a White House reporter whose journalist ethics required neutrality became known, Parsons defended his actions by saying, quote, "I felt there needed to be a Black replacement for Thurgood Marshall on the bench, a Black white supremacist. It was important enough for me to overlook my ethical responsibilities." Reminds me of Roland Martin, Donna Brazile feeding questions during the debates to Hillary Clinton. In other words, for Bush, Parsons, and many others, Thomas's skin color trumped his record on issues that deeply affected the lives of Black Americans. Bush's relationship with Black America was always informed by cynicism. He used William Horton and the fear of quotas to get elected. He used a little-known judicial nominee to get a conservative court appointment and one whose race silenced those who would otherwise have opposed him. Yet Bush is also known for an action that no other president had taken up until that time. Get ready for it. He used the powers of the federal government to prosecute police brutality. Did y'all know that? Type it in the chat if you knew that. America was riveted in 91 by a video showing a LA black man named Rodney King being beaten by police. The 92 acquittal sparked riots in which 54 people lost their lives. The Bush Justice Department then began prosecution of the police who were convicted in 93 during the Clinton administration. Ultimately, 2 served time in jail. Did you guys know that? I didn't know that until I read this. George H.W. Bush can be given credit for at least one deed that brought justice to the perpetrators of a great injustice that cost 54 of our lives down here in LA. But throughout his tenure, he proved that anti-Black racism was so potent that future presidential campaigns would use the same strategy to boost their chances of success. And the beat goes on. The more things stay the same, the more things stay the same. Next up, Bill Clinton. I'll read your comments and we'll get out. 93 to 2001. This is such a disappointment for a white man that was stupidly coined America's first Black president. Wait till you hear this. In 98, Nobel Prize winning novelist Toni Morrison said of Bill Clinton that white skin notwithstanding, this is our first Black president. Blacker than any actual Black person who could ever be elected in our children's lifetime. Morrison was no more prescient than anyone else and had no idea that 10 years later there would in fact be a Black president of the United States, but we have yet to have our first ADOS president. That's when we will have had a real president for the ADOS. That's when we will have had a real vice president for the ADOS. The comment is memorable today for another reason. In 98, in the middle of his second term, Bill Clinton had made it clear that Black people could be used to get votes, but would be betrayed whenever they became a political liability. Once again, the ruse of the two-party system, with the designation of one as the White People's Party, created massive cognitive dissonance among Black people to this day. In some cases, Clinton did the disparaging himself, finding new ways to use Black individuals or the entire group as the object of all hate, fear, and anger in the minds of white people. No wonder why we're getting executed by government sanction. It's starting at the top with these white devils in office. Black Americans originally had great affection for Bill Clinton for the simple reason that he was a Democrat. This is what I'm asking us and begging us to stop being. Influenced by party, influenced by identity politics, influenced by respectability politics. We have got to break the back of the establishment by delivering a Republican top of the ticket and a Democratic down ballot to protect the over 42% of ADOS who rely on government assistance by design of institutional systemic racism. We will forever be at George Floyd 846 and worse if we don't weaponize our vote and socialize our suffering. Neither he nor any other presidential contender was worthy of great adulation, but the desperation over huge Democratic losses in the last 3 presidential elections gave Clinton an enormous amount of goodwill, akin to Trump, right? Which is what y'all ran to the polls to unseat. A Republican that we did not put into office. He was also a masterful politician who used the media to great effect. He appeared on the Arsenio Hall show playing a saxophone and wearing dark glasses, a savvy decision in an era when image making can be as important as policy pronouncements. His ability to show some degree of cool didn't hurt him any, and was the beginning of the first Black president designation. Even though Clinton appeared on a popular television show with a Black host whose audience was known for its hipness, the tried and true methods of racial demonization remain part of the path to the White House to this day. 30 million more to the race soldiers. Shoot him in the knee, Biden. Kamala, I'm not doing anything specific for ADOS. Clinton showed his disdain for the Black voters he depended on when he left the thick of the campaign trail to oversee the execution of a Black man in Arkansas. Ricky Ray Rector had attempted suicide after shooting 2 men to death in 1981. He had survived the bullet wound to his head, but he had, in effect, lobotomized himself. That was from when he tried to commit suicide. He was not competent to stand trial or to assist in his own defense. His appeal went all the way to the Supreme Court in 91, but the court declined to hear it. Rector was so impaired that he thought he would return to his cell and finish his last meal, and so he asked if his dessert could be saved for later. In other words, after his execution. All Black Americans were victims of the Clinton 92 campaign. For the first time in 30 years, the Democratic Party platform did not contain any reference to redress of racial injustice. To this day, all Black Americans are victims of the Biden-Harris 2020 campaign because there was no reference to redress of racial injustice while they were on the campaign trail in 2019. Clinton and his running mate Al Gore published a campaign manifesto titled "Putting People First," which mentions civil rights only to decry the use of quotas to fight discriminatory practices, which is why the majority of Black men in this country lack employment. These sins of omission were not even the worst racist acts committed by the Bill Clinton campaign. On March 1st, 92, Bill Clinton held a photo opportunity at Stone Mountain, Georgia. I know y'all remember this picture. The mountain in the name has the biggest bas relief sculpture in the world, which depicts Robert E. Lee, Stonewall Jackson, and Jefferson Davis. In 1915, the first of many KKK rallies was held at the site, featuring the now iconic burning crosses. Clinton had already executed Ricky Ray Rector, so there should have been no need to burnish his crime-fighting credentials. But the Super Tuesday primary was 1 week away. There were still a few white Southern conservatives in the Democratic Party, and Super Tuesday was created to give them a greater voice in the nominating process. They were not to be disappointed when Clinton posed with inmates from the Stone Mountain Correctional Facility as a human backdrop. Sorry. One of my comrades, William Dickens, who's a friend to the show, Triangle ADOS, Twin City ADOS, was texting me to keep me encouraged, to keep doing the work. I thank you for that, William Dickens. I love you, Black and Strong. Thank you for the text. You made me lose my place, but I love being encouraged. You guys are the wind beneath my wings and why I use my voice and my passion and my love for ADOS in this way. I'm on my square. I can't give in. I can't give up. I can't give out. And I thank you for being interested in the way I see it. Back to the text. Sorry, I lost my place looking at that. It's just getting good, family, but we're almost done. Bear with me. Nearly all the men in prison uniforms were Black, and Clinton used them to declare that toughness on crime and the evoking of segregationist memory were not unique to Republicans. But there was more race baiting to come. On June 13, 1992, Clinton used remarks made by rap singer Sister Souljah to embarrass the Reverend Jesse Jackson, himself a candidate for the Democratic nomination for president in the previous two elections, while at a Rainbow Coalition event. After the police, who were videotaped beating Rodney King, were acquitted in LA, riots broke out in the city's South Central neighborhood. Sister Souljah was quoted as saying, quote, "If Black people kill Black people every day, why not have a week and kill white people?" Her argument was that if society accepted the murder of Black people by other Black people, the murder of white people should not be regarded any differently. Clinton did more than repudiate her words. With Jesse Jackson looking on, he also compared her to Klansman David Duke. More than 20 years later, the term Sister Souljah moment is still part of the political lexicon, used to indicate a politician's rejection of supposedly extreme perspectives and cynical dismissal of supporters for electoral gain. Even worse than Clinton's personal betrayal of Jackson was the reaction of Black leaders to the rhetorical ambush. They were either nonchalant or so desperate for victory that they supported the anti-Black race baiting. Congressman John Lewis gave a typical response. Quote, "I think what we are witnessing is what I call a quiet revolution in American politics. In the communities I deal with, people want to win. They want to see a Democrat in the White House. To this day, they understand that in order to win, it is necessary to bring back those individuals who had left the party. They're still chasing Republicans to this day. God help us. His term, individuals who had left the party, obviously meant white people. When Clinton was inaugurated in 93, he stuck with what had been a winning formula. In May of that year, he nominated Lonnie Guinier to head the Department of Justice Civil Rights Division. She was an author, director of the NAACP Legal Defense Fund, and law professor of the University of Pennsylvania. In her book, we need to get this book, The Tyranny of the Majority, she chronicled how the numerical minority status of Black voters deprives them of democracy. They are unable to see the policies they support put into effect unless white people also support those policies. Black candidates to high office cannot win unless they distance themselves from the political aspirations of the Black community. Two things, me speaking. I've got about close to 200 people when I implored whether or not I should run for office in the Facebook space. And I thank you guys for your love and support of me running for office. It is a compliment beyond that ADOS loves my work. ADOS loves my voice. ADOS would love for me to represent them. Okay? That means more to me than I have the words to convey. That ADOS and our allies think that highly of me as a representative of you. Okay? But this right here, Black candidates to high office cannot win unless they distance themselves from the political aspirations of the Black community, is what I cannot do. I can never, they can't pay me enough to betray my own ADOS. That would not sit well in my soul. And this is why, part two to what I have to say before I finish. This is why you see so many bootlicks representing us in office. It's not that the CBC isn't trying to get things done. They literally have to sell us out to the largest constituencies, the whites and the immigrants. When she said this, I was able to give a little empathy to the coons running the government. Okay, let me not call them that. To the Blacks in office. That must be a tightrope for them because I can't do it. I'll just be over here until I can, I really am seeking to be a paid speaker on the subject of reparations in the colleges and every space that I can be paid to speak on it. That's my goal. That's my square, to continue to rep ADOS full-chested. So I got to find ways to monetize my passion for ADOS. And I will do that because I need to be truthful and honest about what's happening to my people. And there are people that are willing to pay to hear that done. So why not? Let's get back to the text so I can get you out. Her thesis was easily provable, but the ferocity of attacks on Guinier was prodigious. Republicans were determined to undo her nomination by calling her crazy and making fun of her hairstyle and even her name. She was disparaged as the quota queen, despite her opposition to quotas, and a not subtle resurrection of Ronald Reagan's mythic welfare queen. To my knowledge, she was an immigrant. Even supposedly liberal outlets like the New York Times jumped on the bandwagon of attacking Guinier, saying, quote, without question, the nominee herself created the basic problem. The Clinton administration did not allow Guinier to defend herself, but refused to defend her either. After weeks of allowing her to twist in the wind, the nomination was withdrawn. Me speaking. This is my problem with all these immigrants taking over government, taking over in terms of becoming judges. They are the white oppressors in blackface. No, it's not a victory to see immigrants or people like Kamala, one generation removed from East Indian Brahmin caste, married to a Jewish banker with an atrocious record against the ADOS. It is not cool on any level for ADOS that she is within a stone's throw of the presidential seat, the highest office in the land. They will do us in for their butter biscuits faster than white people. They are more ferocious against us than even the whites. You saw what happened under Obama. All of the beautiful souls lost to government-sanctioned execution. He had Eric Holder and was it Susan Rice? When the Fed stepped in, they did nothing. Akin to Kamala down here in LA. When Maitrice Richardson, who had a beautiful sister, held a master's degree, but suffered from bipolar. She went to dinner in Malibu, had an episode. Her grandmother tried to pay over the phone for her meal since she had a psychotic break. Those Mickey Thickies called the race soldiers. They jailed her. Her mother, who lived probably like a couple of hours, at least maybe 90 minutes, at least an hour from Malibu, I think it was, asked them to keep her overnight and she would come for her in the morning. They promised the mother they would keep her overnight. They promised the mother they would, or the mother would have gone to get her. But it's dark. And trying to get to these places that are not well lit at night, by the time she knew that her daughter was in jail, was just, if you're going to keep her, I'll come for her in the morning. These Mickey Thickies let her out of jail without her cell phone, without a car. And they found her body a month later. Kamala was AG and said in the beginning she wasn't going to prosecute the police. But when it was time to run for the senatorial seat, she mysteriously had a change of heart. She answered the father's appeals to open up the case. Black folks thought she had made the turn for the better to finally be for ADOS. They came out in droves to vote for her. As soon as she won the race, she closed the case and said there was nothing to see. These immigrants in office are not ADOS friends. And it's why they won't put more ADOS in office. It is why they won't give us high position. Although they can find quite a few sellouts amongst us. This is not good. The Guinier character assassination wasn't the end of Clinton's obeisance. I don't know if I got that word right, to racism to achieve political ends. In 94, you know, the crime bill authored by Jim Crow, segregationist Jim Crow Joe. In 94, he signed the Violent Crime Control and Law Enforcement Act, which began the disastrous escalation of mass incarceration of Black people. Draconian sentences imposed for the distribution of crack cocaine were part of that law. Thousands of people still languish in jail for what were once considered minor offenses. Even after sucker punching Black political figures at their own events, disavowing qualified nominees, and putting more Black people in jail, Clinton was not finished. He came into office in 92 with Democratic majorities in both houses of Congress. In 94, the Republicans swept them out of power, and the man with little conviction began throwing his constituents under the bus. Welfare reform became the main means of doing so. His mantra, "End welfare as we know it," evoked every stereotype about poor Americans who are often assumed to be Black. The Personal Responsibility and Work Opportunity Reconciliation Act of 96 put limits on cash grants, gave the states greater leeway in administering public assistance, and enacted requirements that the food stamp program be digitized. This last requirement created a lucrative system of corporate welfare, which continues to this day. Private corporations administer SNAP benefits for all 50 states. Poverty became a profit center because of Clinton. Me speaking. Isn't that true of government-sanctioned executions? Black on Black crimes and murder? Doesn't it become a real estate profit center to gentrify the communities and push ADOS out? Last pair, family. Despite the years of insults and punishments he inflicted on them, most Black voters still supported Clinton. Despite the 47 years of insults and punishments he inflicted on them, most Black voters, 85%, still supported Biden-Harris. No matter how bad Democrats were, Black people clung to them like life vests after a shipwreck. To this day. Frederick Douglass had said of the Republicans, quote, "The Republican Party is the ship and all else is the sea around us," close quote. The role as white people's party had shifted 100 years later, and it was the Democrats who were perceived as providing refuge from disaster, even when they created conditions that impacted Black people in such negative ways. Tune in Thursday, George W. Bush II, and none other than Barack Obama, in the Miseducation of ADOS in America with 3 Ks book club series. We're almost done, family. Let me take a sip of my alkaline water before I go into your comments. So much for getting you out early. I'm going back up to the top of the comments that I can see. Forgive me if I don't read your comment. I'm only going to the meat and potatoes so I can make my commentaries. You guys know you're my co-host until I settle down and figure out how to let you call in. Roland Small says, Jim Crow, O'Biden, Rahm Emanuel, Kabama, Ron Klein are 3 anti-ADOS haters. Yepers. Cheryl Livingston, welcome to the live, my love. You are our second coming of Goddess Ida B. Wells. Oh, that's such a blessing. Oh, I feel so honored. You're like the second or third person to call me that. I am honored. Thank you. What a humbling. Thank you. Prejudicial is the book by Margaret Kimberly. Roland says, ADOS doesn't need Longoria, Kabama tweeting divisive rhetoric at ADOS folks. Yeah, I think Eva Longoria is giving the Latinx community that predominantly voted for Trump credit for what the ADOS did to the tune of 84%. Yes, you spelled it right, Johnny Dior. Trump 2020, Trump equals MAGA. You have to understand that what I'm asking for is a protest vote. Just like you guys voted for Biden to unseat Trump, I'm asking for a Trump top of the ticket and a Democratic Congress to break the back of the establishment and burn America down as we know it. Yes, there will be casualties. We just won't be the only ones. I'm not in support of either party. I voted green at the top. You didn't have to vote for either party at the top. You could have voted green or ADOS or whatever. But you must know your Board of Election laws if you're going to do a protest vote. This is what the ADOS has been on for a couple of years now. We apparently our message did not resonate because 85% showed to the polls and gave it to Biden. We're trying to break the back of the establishment to teach them a lesson they will never learn if we continue to vote blue no matter who, without demanding reparations in the Black agenda to close the egregious $100 trillion racial wealth gap. It's never going to happen if they know they don't have to give you anything. We've been voting this since what, 36? Come on. I am more afraid of our extinction than I am Trump. A 4-year racist in office. Well, he's not a 4-year racist in office. A racist in office for 4 years in the highest office of the land, as compared to the racists you guys voted into office of 47 years with his cohort, Kamala, who makes for a combined 65 years in political office. That math don't add up. So we don't give a damn who's at the top. The Congress holds the purse. Do you think the Republicans are going to vote for our reparations? You got to show to the polls in Obama-style numbers every election cycle. You don't get a break. Stop being politically lazy. And play chess, not checkers. Get some strategy. Weaponize your vote and socialize your suffering. Or you're going to be the only ones to continue to suffer. We're already at George Floyd 846. We've got to do something as a wealthless group that clearly can deliver them in an election still, because the Latinx are still too conservative. That is until the Democrats start to give them everything that is due us, including our reparations. That's what you run the risk of if you don't snap out of it. Johnny says, Margaret Sanger started Planned Parenthood, a white Democrat. Oh, yes. And the first Planned Parent was in Harlem, New York. Yeah, Donnie says, I do a lot of research on this. Great, sis. I'm so glad you're a reader and a researcher. Thank you for your work. Wheat B, welcome to the live. Heard about the voting software that was changing Trump's votes to Biden. You know what? I don't put anything past the Democrats. I saw them interfere in 2 primaries to give us Hillary and now Biden. I don't put anything past them. They don't get to throw rocks and hide their hands while making Trump to be the only racist boogeyman in office. Zach, 721-483-17. Thank you for joining the live. BLM was created in the 90s. Okay. Baloney 40, welcome to the live. Danny Dior 2325, transgender are not women. I think they go under some type of surgery to become women, or, I don't know. It's such a mess to give more cover to immigrants, gays, and white folks than you do the ADOS. But they don't want to pay that reparations in the trillions over multi-generations. That's really what this is all about. Bobby O231, thank you for joining the live. Emmer Gunner, okay. Hello, Angela. Look, Dr. Gibson's in the house. Triangle ADOS, thank you. Thanks for letting us know about Prejudicial. I downloaded an Audible version, but haven't gotten around to reading it. However, I read it over the Christmas break and will definitely include it in the reading list should we start a student chapter sometime next year. Thank you, Dr. Gibson, for all of your hard work and your brilliance. We're so grateful and blessed to have you amongst us in the ADOS movement. Told you we got some heavyweights over here. I'm just reading the pertinent comments to pray you out. Zach says, Kamala Harris' family owned slaves in Jamaica. Absolutely. Kamala's middle name is Desi. Desi means pure Indian. Okay? Something she's very proud of. Her middle name is Desi, and Desi is a term used to identify yourself as a pure Indian. So her father is not African Indian, African Jamaica. He is Indian Jamaican and has bragged about being a descendant of slave owners. That is who you guys put into office, akin to Obama, who is Bush Cheney's cousin. Yes, on his white mama's side, and descends from slave owners. As you guys are running and doing a jig in the streets like y'all just came up. So she comes from privilege. She ain't ADOS. And now she's talking about being Desi. She's aligning with her Indian culture. Loud and proud. Danny says illegals are taking everything. No, the government is giving it to them to annihilate and extinct us. It won't be long before we're living third world in the country that our ancestors built with their lives. If we continue this nonsense and not weaponize our vote and socialize our suffering. If we don't do that immediately come 2024, it's a wrap. 70 million immigrants, plans to allow 22 million more access. We're at around 37 million, including Black immigrants. Down from 40 million. And 20 million babies aborted since 73. Black communities are first impacted and affected by the immigrations in these open borders. Yep. Latinos are reproducing at the highest rate in this country. Absolutely. They don't believe in abortion. Conway, Twitter? No, I don't need a handout. You see, that's where you get it wrong. Reparations is a debt that is owed for slavery, Jim Crow, and accrued ongoing systemic racism, oppression, and disadvantage in the country our ancestors built with their lives. We are victimized by the institution of systemic racism, We are oppressed due to institutional systemic racism. I am an educated, professional homeowner. Our fight is for what we are owed. It's not welfare and it's not a handout. Bonnie says they are creating a purge. Yes. Dr. Gibson says, sadly, we also need quotas for our HBCUs. Absolutely. Look at any academic department, and I will guarantee that most of the ADOS professors that are actually hired are working as adjunct professors, and the majority of the students are immigrant. At the HBCUs, as Kamala has plans to erase HBCU student loan debt, and we're not the majority there. Another white wealth transfer, because the color of white in this country altogether now is green. You can be blue, black, and be white in America with 3 Ks. Welcome to Live, Michael Worthington. Oh, attorney out of New York. I see you. Concession by an outgoing president is not constitutionally or required by statute. Well, it's not. That's true. That part is true. But the fact that he can keep this caught up in legislation, just go back and listen to the top of the show to how Van explained it. Okay? There's something in the Constitution that gives this man the right to keep the top of the ticket. He can literally become president if he leans in on what he is currently doing. Van Jones made the perfect argument for it. I can't repeat it verbatim, but he made perfect sense with the strategy that I believe Donald Trump is trying to invoke. Basically, what he was saying is that popular vote and electoral college be damned. Trump can still be the president of this country. Conceding is a way to do it peaceably. Okay? But that's not what Trump is doing. He is creating all kind of mayhem, trying to hold on. He is literally trying to stage a coup to remain the president of this country. I believe he has a lot on the line, like, prison, his wife divorcing him. Yeah. So check out the top of the show. Listen to Van. Not the crybaby part. Listen to the other part. Okay? And you will get an understanding of how he can stage a coup and stay president. If you ask any damn what did Biden do in 47 years in office, they can't answer that. Of course not. Because it was all against ADOS. Roland says, sadly, the Dixiecrats, the repugnant, okey doke, brainwashing, mind control of so-called blacks. Yep. Cheryl says, unfortunately, ADOS are willing accomplices and are indeed compliant in the demise of their own group. Yep. Malcolm X broke it down at 65. Thank you, Danny. I'll send you the link. Thank you. Zach says, Trump employs black people while the Democrats want to keep them enslaved. I didn't know Trump employed black folks. Who? Thank you, Donnie, for the link. It's called Liberal X. Okay, I'll check it out. Thank you. Back at Danny, Malcolm X was assassinated by his own followers because he changed his opinion about white. That's very controversial, Zach. He went to Mecca. He had an awakening. He's right. Not all white folks are the devil. Okay. He didn't deserve to be assassinated for having a change of heart after becoming spiritually enlightened. He grew. DJ Segwan, thank you for joining the live, my love. Kiki82, thank you. There are no parties. They work together. Absolutely, Kiki. Same snake. One thing over here, one thing over there. Same snake. Same snake head. Harry Blackfire, B1. B1 is welcome. FBA is welcome. All are welcome. We need to work together, family. We need to work together and get on the same page, move as a block. Roland, an honorary black man during the South Carolina primary, which saved O'Biden. I love the way you say O'Biden. Run for so-called POTUS. Yep. That was Clyburn and Obama. That, and Stacey Abrams helped deliver Biden, Kamala. Debonair One says, Trump had a wildly popular show, The Apprentice, 15 seasons. All of a sudden, he's a boogeyman. Okay. I love that show. I didn't miss an episode, a season. I love that show. And so, you know, he's doing what the Democrats do, playing to his base. He's the boogeyman. He's the racist boogeyman, not Biden, not Kamala. Oh my God, I can't believe how gullible and naive we are to have fallen for what just happened. You talk about political theater. It was Tony Award winning. It was Oscar Award winning. Yeah, because whites weren't the issue. It was people's individual opinion that's to blame. I don't know if that's in response to. Oh my God, that's what Malcolm X was saying. He said libs are the worst. They are the fox in sheep clothing. They are the, yes, they are. Yes, they are. And they're very clever at it too, Danny. ADOS Will, hi fam, welcome to the live. Okay, I'm almost done, y'all. Angela, watch my vid. I sure will, my love. Thanks for sharing. Roland says, Dixiecrat Jim Crow Biden gave the eulogy for his good old Senator Strom Thurmond's funeral. Yeah, that was his boy. He was the protege of Strom Thurmond. That's who y'all voted at the top of the ticket, not me. I ain't taking no credit for this. Roland says, corporate America, WASP USA, Wall Street career tricksters are big-time welfare recipients. You better know it. They create the problem by institutional systemic racism. They create a need for welfare and government and then want to be elected to offer no reforms. No plans to make you whole. No plans to make you American. Just kill you off. Extinct you. Make you third world by bringing in immigrants to climb right over top of you. And 85% of our electorate, more than showed up for Obama, voted for this. It just makes me realize how much work we've got left to do, ADOS. That's why he gave Michelle that piece of candy. DJ, y'all make me laugh and laugh some more. Yeah, they're family. Bush, Cheney, Bush, and Obama are in the same bloodline on his white mama's side. And we fell for it. The sheeple fell for unseating Trump, whom we did not place into office, over demanding reparations and a black agenda to close the egregious $100 trillion racial wealth gap. All of that was stolen from us. There was an $11 trillion surplus, $11 trillion surplus post our chattel slavery that they have amassed and stolen and grown to over $100 trillion. While we died disproportionately from COVID and government sanctioned execution. And y'all voted to unseat Trump. ADOS is rising, my love. You're right, ADOS will. So Biden has betrayed ADOS for 47 years, and it's so sad to see how many ADOS fell for Biden. Yes, yes, yes. Yeah, ADOS really was stuck on stupid for Clinton. Stuck on stupid for all the Democrats. Every election, every time they're in office, you get nothing during their term. And you continue to vote this way instead of adopting a protest strategy. Danny says, you should do a video on the KKK affiliates that became politicians. That's a good idea, my love. I'll write that down. Thank you. Sorry, I am here with you. No need to apologize. Is that Will Dickens? That is Will. That was who I was thinking on my phone. Will Dickens, ADOS Will. I didn't make the connection until I looked at your picture and you said, sorry, I'm here with you. So glad to. This brother is so powerful and so sharp and so strong. You have to check out his videos. William Dickinson Facebook. He's got a few archives himself. A powerful voice, son of a sharecropper who had like 8 heart attacks. Oh my God. And he's sharecropped and he's done time in jail. And it's just a miracle. A major walking, living, breathing testimony to his own self-made manhood and his beautiful family. And he's winning because that's what we do. We pull ourselves up by our bootless straps in the meantime for the fool, the twatter fool, whoever the hell his name was, who want to say we're looking for handouts. We have been pulling ourselves up by our bootless straps since our inception here. We're fighting for what we are owed. And you will not get shame or guilt us into coming off our square by calling it welfare or calling us victims or calling it a handout. We're built for this fight and we're going to win. And if your ADOS talking that ish, inbox me so I can send you my P.O. box so when they cut that check, you don't want no handouts. Send it to me. I know just how to use it. And he says Trump gave Jesse a whole floor in his hotel for the Rainbow Coalition campaign. He was Democrat before he went to the Republican side. That's why they hate him so much. Because, he's not a politician. David Duke was a grand dragon of the KKK, and Hillary Clinton named him their mentor for over 25 years. Wow, Danny, I didn't know that. Stands to reason. She was a Goldwater girl. She stumped for Barry Goldwater. She's a Republican in Democratic clothing, too. Tyrone Wilbur, welcome to the live. Thank you for being here. I love you black and strong, Erie. Thank you. I received your love, and I return it a millionfold. Yes, I do. I jump. I don't know, it gets to a certain point, and then it jumps. Let's see here. Guillory. Crooked Guillory. That's right. I love some of y'all's expressions. It just tickles me. Oh, my God. Okay, there we go. I would vote for you. I love you for that, my love, but they can't pay me enough to betray my own. No way. ADOS will always looking for that white approval that is done. ADOS is here. Never forget about our people. Ever, ever. Ever, ever, ever. Never, never. When are they going to fall? Sis, we working on it. Come join us if you're not in the movement. Call them by their demon name, Boule. Boule is right. It's a tough spot. Chanetta Lynn, thank you for joining the live, my love. Universities are interested in speakers on this subject, but they like it better if you have written a book or an article that has been published. Thank you for that, my love. That means I better get writing because I sure want to do this full time. Carlos Robbins, Asians, Jews, and LGBTs don't have to coddle white voters to get their agenda addressed for their people. Nope. No, you're right. They think they're better than us. Yeah, many of them do. Many of them are white oppressors. That's the thanks we get. God save my people. Oh, yeah. God is definitely in the mix because God is in you. My fiance is bipolar. God bless him. Sending prayers. Oh, no, sis. I feel you, my love. I dropped expletives over here. God's working with my mouth. My inner Christ is working with my mouth. Too many of our folks got bamboozled to get Trump out, but they two devils in the power. Yeah, Roland, you're right. Oh, don't cry, my love. Don't cry. Danny, don't cry. It's insanity. It's post-traumatic slave syndrome. Correction, but they put two racist devils in power, which will continue our Holocaust. Yep. Well, we're the only ones. Yep. While folks get their goodies and we get nothing. Danny says, look at Colorado about to legalize meth, coke, and crack. Colorado is a sanctuary state ran by Dems. While our brothers still are on lockdown. And Roland, exactly. Racist POS going to make this country socialist. I think you meant POC. Yeah, they're going to be running us. And this is why it's imperative that we push Biden to give us the reparations, make it an executive order. We must push it to happen. Since he said he's got our back, we got to make it happen. Because they are filling up this government with a lot of people that look like us that mean us no good. They are as bad as our white oppressors. America Corporation, not a country. There it is. Boom. And don't they still own us? Yes, my love. I see your comments, Danny. I'm saying some of your comments. Sure. I just have to get to the pertinent stuff so I can pray us out. Mike Michelson, what's up? Welcome to the live, my love. Sasha Del Reed 360, peace, my love. Thank you for joining the live. God of Jacob. Yeah, we gave our vote away for free, my love. Welcome to the live. Media Engagement Solutions. Welcome to the live, my love. I'm scrolling. 85% of us are politically uneducated. Yeah, that's the problem. We're just going out here listening to the Clinton News Network, corporate with 3K Media, and running around hair on fire to unseat Trump. We allowed them to get into our psyches instead of coming over to social media where the new black media is. The real black politics is being done. Politics. Real black politics. We're showing you your relationship as ADOS to these politics and the games and the schemes and trying to get you on code. Well, we got 4 years to get you on code for the next election. Prayerfully, our voices in this space will resonate. Danny, you can email me that at friendsofADOSTV@gmail.com. FriendsofADOSTV@gmail. I'd love to hear from you, my love, because I won't remember. My apologies. I'm on like 6 subcommittees for works that we're doing down here, working nationally with other groups, the DMV, the Triangle. It's a lot, my love. So if you email me, I'll be able to chat with you. Miss Satra Del Reed says, Miss Angela, we have a dim White House, dim House of Rep, possibly a tie in the Senate. How do you suggest we move and run off 2022 and 2024 elections? Well, we're going to have to get as many Democrats in office as possible. We have to take the Congress. Okay, it's highly unlikely that even a tied Republican Senate with a tied Senate that with Mitch McConnell at the head, that we're going to get much done. Right now, we've got to really get our own ADOS candidates groomed to run for office to unseat the lames that are going to be in there being disruptive, like say at AOC. We need more progressives in Congress. So that's the mission for 2022 and 2024. We don't get a rest. We don't get a break. We have got to become more politically educated and start working locally on everything. Like folks are like, you shouldn't do state reparations because it's going to hurt the federal ask. We don't have a choice because that state reparations down here was already in motion when we got on the train. The most we can do at this point is to really get in front of who the commission is going to be, right? We got to get our people on that commission to study California reparations down here. And we got to get our own ethnicity. We want to be referred to as American descendants of chattel slavery as a subgroup under African American. We need to unflatten blackness so our issues can be seen and dealt with. That's the trick of the government, to couch us in minority and people of color so that they can give everything that's due us away to the other groups to starve us out. That is the plan. So we've got to play chess, not checkers. We've got to weaponize our votes and socialize our suffering. Yeah, we do. So we've got to get the most progressive in the Congress to protect the over 42% of the ADOS who rely on government assistance by design of institutional systemic racism. The top don't matter. That Congress, we need that purse, and we need for that reparations to come out of a Democratic Congress who owes us. Mr. Joe Biden, I got your back. Yeah. We're going to get with you on that. Margaret McCall, COVID-19 is what, thank you, my love. Welcome to the live if I didn't welcome you already. COVID-19 is what made people vote for Trump more than anything else. There would have been a different outcome, be it not for coronavirus. Oh, Trump would have won had the pandemic, had he not been accused of, mishandling the pandemic, which I believe he mishandled. I mean, had he shut the country down by federal mandate, we may have been down for a couple of months. We don't know how long this is going to last. I just got a memo from one of my Republican friends that Governor Gavin Newsom is doubling down on the stay at home because the numbers are going up. Every time they try to open the state, the numbers crop back up. So I don't know when we're going to be back to normal. We must become, ADOS Will says, we must become chess players, not chess pieces. I love that. He's got some of the best quotes. They literally showed their face. They can't have kids. They don't have uterus. That's Danny speaking. Listen, I know what's going on and why they're making everybody else white but us. Just read when the Irish were white or became white. The Jews became white. Now the Latinx are white. They mark white on the census. Media Engagement Solutions, welcome to the live. We can listen to you teach till the by and by. Beautiful and strong are you in mind, body, and spirit. Very humbling. Thank you for that. We can't wait that long. We have to do it now. Yeah, babe. We're on fire. The roof is definitely on fire. It's a wrap now. We're done for cause. The collective of us don't care that they are sheep, that they are sheep. Well, that's okay. We're growing, baby. We can't give in. We can't give up. We can't give out. Our people are counting on us. His name is Conway Twitty, and he's trolling. Oh, well, he's a dimwit. Okay, so whatever. I'll just read past his stuff. I don't know how to. I need mods. I need to learn how to use this darn thing. I don't know how, really. Like, I need to just sit down and still myself so I can take your calls and be able to get these people out of here when they come for me and make me mad. I keep getting booted out of Periscope. Join me over at YouTube, Danny. Everybody, subscribe to my YouTube. I never say this. Like, share, subscribe. I have a PayPal in the description if you want to support the show. I'm in Facebook too. So live in Facebook, Twitter, and Periscope. If Periscope's not working, go over to YouTube, okay? I will email you, my love. Okay. God of Jacob, facts on both your comments. Okay, we're agreeing. I'm going to give you my number. Not here, babe. Don't get that out. Don't put your number, my love. I don't want people calling and harassing you. Please call me. We need to do some justice. Okay, just don't put your number there. Take that out. Black Magic. Oregon just, welcome to the live, my love. Oregon just did legalize all of that mess. Oh my God. Not jobs, not homes, not businesses, drugs. And this is in our communities. So we're going to be the victims of this nonsense. Shell Livingston, thank you for sharing your link. Oh, my email is friends of ADOS TV, the same as my show, friends of ADOS TV at gmail.com. AOC needs to go. She's kissing Pelosi's ass. It's not before long before they go from being progressives to walking that Democratic line. It's sad. Hair on fire, priceless as you are, Angela. Thank you, my love. You have to work community, city, county, state. You're right, Danny. Black Magic, they are not saying how many people kept the top part blank. They're not going to tell us that. Not with mail-in ballots. It's hard to trust anything. It's hard to trust anything. I went to the polls. I got there early and had a beautiful, seamless, smooth time. Voting green top, dim down. It felt so great to get there and not have to be online. During the primary, I was online for 3.5 hours. I use that word all the time, dimwit. Yes. I need to email one more time. Okay, I'm going to type it in here, Danny, okay? Friends of ADOS TV at gmail.com. If there's something that you'd like to learn more about the way I see it, don't hesitate to email me. I just be patient with me, though. I've got my plate is busy. I'm raising a beautiful 16-year-old track star. I still work in the courts from home. And the movement is my life. You are my life. You are my love. You are my passion. From knee high to a gatepost, I thank you, Daddy, for giving me this love for our people. I thank you so much for that. I can't think of a better way to use my voice than to lift the beautiful, brilliant ADOS. It is a privilege and an honor to come before you every Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday. I'm grateful that you think enough of me to hang with me for as long as I want to talk and share. Thank you for that. And with that said, family, let me pray you out. I want to tell you that the light of God surrounds you. The love of God enfolds you. The power of God protects you, and the presence of God watches over you. Wherever ADOS and its allies are, God truly is, because guess what, family? You are the face of God. You are the voice of God. You are the body temple of the Spirit of the living God. Until Thursday, around 6-ish, you go out into these streets and you act like you know who you are. And you make it a beautiful, God-inspired rest of your evening and next couple of days until we meet again. I love you, Black. I love you, strong. Ciao for now, family. Peace.